You're looking good, and it feels good to be with you today. I'm Kelma Brian Hunter, and this is News with the Eyes of Faith, where I talk about news from the perspective of Christ and from the doctrine of Christ. Well, we have some fun news in Utah. We have AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Bernie Sanders. They're coming to Utah and Idaho. There it is right there. It kind of reminds you of John McCain and Sarah Palin, the old and new. So we have two plutocrats fighting the oligarchy. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that clip from Elon Musk where he had Bernie Sanders just repeating the word oligarchy over and over again since 1993. This is Confusocracy at its best. Two people with a lot of privilege. Isn't it funny how people go to Congress? Somehow they suddenly become really rich for some reason. So above and beyond speaking fees and book deals, AOC can make more with one speaking fee than I do an entire year. So that's a confusocracy. Both parties are getting rich off of this. It's interesting phrasing. First of all, oligarch, it's not a sticky term. It's really a confusing word. It's not smooth. It's something designed to associate with the Russian, and we're going back to the Mueller report, which debunked the Russian collusion hoax. Yeah, they're firing blanks at this point. Speaking at someone who isn't firing blanks, you had Bill Maher. He had this dinner with Donald Trump, and he spoke about it on the show. And he had something interesting to say. This is what Bill Maher said. The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner. The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner that I thought about. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking it as a positive that this person exists, because everything that I ever not liked about him was, I swear to the G word, absent, at least on the night with this guy. Bob Kid Rock told me that the night before. He said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off, or he'll just go on and on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who really don't listen because they just want to get their next thing, people whose response to things you say just don't track. Like what? None of that with him. And mostly he steered the conversation. So what do you think about this? I know your mind is blown, so is mine. It's interesting, he had his staff print out 60 insults, and Trump took the paper and autographed it. That's just kind of playful. That's actually a class act. That is how you exactly respond to situations like that. You always fight with wisdom and with charity, not with insults. But this is exactly what President Russell M. Nelson is talking about when he says we need to be peacemakers. Donald Trump and Bill Maher were able to do it. And I salute that. Ignore that. But this also confusocracy again is Glenn Beck talked about this once, how when he was up and coming, how he's pulled aside and said, look, you take your pound of flesh, we take our pound of flesh, and afterwards we'll all have dinner together. And Glenn Beck said, no, I'm not doing things that way. It's sort of the professional wrestling model where you have good guys and bad guys, but they're actually really good friends. It's all theater. But no, this is actually genuine human connection. They set aside the jerseys, the mascots, and the kazoos, and we're two human beings talking to each other. Follow that pattern. That's what the prophet's telling us to do. So you have circular news. It's the economy is tanking. We have these ridiculous tariff hikes. Once you cross 100% tariff, it just gets a little bit silly. That. Here's something that's not silly. The Salt Lake Tribune had this headline about the death of a mission president, and they report this is the 9th missionary death this year. Now, they're going back to the old Vietnam War. Young people don't know this, but what they did during the Vietnam War, they talked about the American body count. It was like a gross telethon. This is how many people died, but they didn't talk about where objectives being won. It's just body count. It was effective, but it was dishonest. I'm still suffering from some injuries I experienced on my mission. So I'm not mad about it. I understand that was a risk. I was 19 when I went. I'm old enough to enlist in the military at that age. I'm old enough to make these decisions. I wasn't brainwashed or seduced. And this is a risk we have. A number of decades ago, President M. Russell Ballard gave a talk about that after some missionaries died. I think it's called The Risks and the Rewards, if I remember it correctly. It's been a while back. I was doing this off the top of my head, but can you show some human decency to a person's death? Come on, Salt Lake Trib. Let's take the high ground on this and be respectful of people. So this is going to be a slow one. It's a general conference. So this is post-conference overload. I just finished reading the talks and taking notes, where I outlined the talks and then get the key points and study the invitations given to us. And the thing that should jump out to everyone's mind is the parable of the wise and foolish virgins. Now, this is tied to the statue that was placed on Temple Squares. They're doing Temple Square statuary, like is at Thanksgiving Point. We have this Garden of Christ. Can't remember the normal name of it is, but they have these different statues. So one is the statue of the 5 wise virgins. Now, there's some controversy because they did each of the women representing a different race, and that raises the question of a double standard. How, with a lot of the media, they're getting more ethnic correct actors. So, the actor in the New Testament videos who played Jesus Christ is different from the one in the Book of Mormon. Now, it would have been nice to have it the same actor for continuity, but they're getting more ethnic-looking actors. But then we don't do this for the statue here, so I'm just kind of back out of that. I do have some opinions, but this is one thing where I'll just keep stuff to myself. But yeah, that kept coming up. I think it was like 3 different talks talked about it. Sister Camille, of course, Elder Runlund, and also Dallin H. Oaks mentioned it. This is what President Russell M. Nelson said at the end of his talk. And remember, this is he talked about it last conference, and this is the second time in a row where he's talked about it. We do not know the day or the hour of his coming, but I do know that the Lord is prompting me to urge us to get ready for that great and dreadful day. Now, Joseph Smith, we understand that Christ said that no man knows the hour or day of this coming. But this Joseph Smith, on the 6th of April, 1843, so about a year and a half before he died, this is from the James Burgess notebook, and I'm getting this off the Joseph Smith papers. Said Joseph Smith, Christ says, no man knoweth the day or the hour when the Son of Man cometh. This is a sweeping argument for sectarianism against Latter-dayism. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It sounds like we're a doomsday cult, but no. We're getting close. Just look at, in my life, the prophecies that have been fulfilled. It's just absolutely amazing. It's in some ways I can't believe it that they've happened. Just what President Nelson said. Look at what's going right in front of our eyes. Now, are we processing it, or we're just curled over our cell phones and we're just ignoring the work of Christ to fix our cell phone addiction, to get that dopamine hit. Said Joseph Smith, did Christ speak this as a general principle throughout all generations? Oh, no. He spoke it in the present tense. No man that was then living upon the footstool of God knew the day or hour. But he did not say that there was no man throughout all generations that should not know the day nor hour. No, this would be in flat contradiction with other scriptures. For the prophet says that God will do nothing, but he will reveal unto his servants the prophets. Consequently, if it is not made known to the prophets, it will not come to pass. Amos 3:7. You ever catch that? You ever think about that? You have to study what, and Joseph Smith says this. Again, we find Paul, 1 Thessalonians 5th chapter, expressly points out the character who shall not know the day nor hour when the Son of Man cometh, for he says it will come upon them as a thief or unawares. And that's what Paul says. To wicked people, children of darkness will be like a thief in the night. But for the children of light, it'll be like labor pains. You can kind of tell a woman knows when she's about to have the baby, when the contractions are coming. Who are they that are children of darkness or night? But the saints says, ye are not of the night or darkness, that the day should come upon you unawares. And so we are getting promptings. Okay, we're feeling the labor pains. The bride of Christ is feeling the labor pains right now. So how do you manage this? Well, go to the scriptures. You have Matthew 24 is that great end times, latter days apocalyptic passage. We have the Joseph Smith translation, the book of Matthew and the Pearl of Great Price is a Joseph Smith translation of that. Then you go to Matthew 25, and Elder Renlund talked about that, where you have the three parables: the parable of the wise and foolish virgin, the parable of the talents, and the parable of the sheep and goats. In the Doctrine and Covenants, there's apocalyptic chapters. Of course, we have the book of Revelation itself. Pay attention to those Joseph Smith translations, but my goodness, things are happening. Things are coming. We're getting into labor pains. We're getting the warning signs. I think we all know what we need to do at this point. And that's both news and prophecy with the eyes of faith. Thank you.